Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to another edition of our Peace Talk Show. This is the weekly show that is brought to you to remind you and educate Gambians and even non-Gambians on issues surrounding peace and dangers related to violence. And today with me, I have a great person actually who will introduce himself. I know once he is introducing himself, he will not introduce himself fully, but I will tell you more about this man. And our discussion will also tell you more about who this man is. And in the meantime, Mr. Kujabi, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Alassane, for having me. I am
you.
simply David Kujabi. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kujabi.
Yes.
Mr. Kujabi, you are welcome to the platform. This is the Peace Talk Show platform, and the platform is actually a platform that is created to educate and remind Gambians on issues surrounding peace, importance of peace, you understand, what peace is all about, you understand, and consequence of violence, dangers of violence. And today with me, we are discussing a very important topic. That is, what are the dangers of violence? This is a topic that is very important, and I know with your assistance and help, with your experience, to be frank enough, today is going to be another great day in the history of this show. Mr. Kujabi, what is your impression on this topic first?
Foremost, thank you for having me here. It is actually a pleasure.
Welcome.
I am also sending my warmest greetings to all the viewers. I am hoping that I don't really raise the expectations too much and don't actually deliver as one may expect. For me, this topic is really very important. It's really crucial, especially given the circumstances in the Gambia right now.
Seriously.
When you talk about violence, it's very difficult to even think of anything positive about violence.
Seriously.
From the world wars coming down to all the violent conflicts that we have had, all that they have brought is chaos, anarchy, death, destruction, and all sorts of evil that has, caused a lot of irreparable damage for some people, for some societies, and for the world at large. So, for me, discussing about the negative effects of violence and advocating for peace, by all means, is always a welcome discussion. I would want to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm not surprised, with your experience. Viewers, this is a man who actually is exposed in a sense that actually he knows both the theory and the practice of what peace and conflict. Not actually experiencing war per se, but he took part in peacekeeping missions. Understand? And he has seen how people actually feel, and he has seen people, the trauma people face during violence and conflicts. So, Mr. Kujabi, we actually have to dissect all these issues. Today, you have to elaborate on all these issues. But since we actually have, a sequence of things to discuss, firstly, the first question is going to be, how do you analyze the current state of Gambia? We are witnessing a lot of arson attacks, vandalisms, burglaries, and murders. What is your take on this? Is this not a recipe for violence?
Okay. To the unobservant eye, they would say, but this still happens everywhere in the world. Robbery, violence, stealing, and things. But given the context within the Gambia, the trend with which they are going, my description of it is scary.
Seriously?
Yes, it is quite scary, and there is need to sit up to discuss and look into what is leading into all of this. What is causing all the rise in violent crime, robbery, cases of murder, and so on and so forth. It is very scary. Seriously. And I think Gambia needs to do something to stem the surge.
Seriously.
A lot of times, most of these cases that you have mentioned, we don't know what happens after they have reached the police and then probably gone to court or not.
Seriously.
Okay. What are the conviction rates of all of these crimes that we are witnessing? You've mentioned demonstrations. How many people have been held accountable for these demonstrations? And a lot of things it's happening. If it's not held in check, it's only going to embolden people to do more. And at the end of it, we may not be able to control it. So there is need to have a national dialogue on the current trend of crime and cases in the Gambia, so that we will see how best to approach them and avert a surge.
Seriously, with the way the things are going very serious. Coming to Mandinka, niajibe mbadi ngolo bimbe min kachaka wolo nyentiko alla jumaning juma kaira kachang kamin na lejang Fatu network mbebin jibe kambi wolo nyentiko masibo munong fitno la masibo de anung bi ngamin soto jang wolong Mr. David Kujabi mu moldi mi alon ko ay londo ning kewya soto bakele Cairo tankandola aning kata han fitnol be damento. So Mr. Kujabi bi ngani ninka minna wala nyindi ko Gambia jang niaji be fitnol wala sunyarol ti farol ning, how do you call it again, la janol ding ibe siarin bakele. So ngani ninka wala ting, you know, komi akamintan na wala nyindi ko wol kulati min yalon ko dunia ko na dawda be kekan e ka kejele, but komi na Gambia banko ta say abinaka nyameng abinaka fanal la mi yalon ko asilo watale. And then kula mi alon ko it requires national dialogue pour mo nga singa ko kacha nga nyinje comme like ndola Gambia maninu long andu nyimu kuldi mi alon ko kukutalem anu amanyan na stela jang anyanda talale. So nyimu kuldi mi alon ka kumayada bagele. And Mr. Kujabi, thank you for that. If you look at it recently, there was, you know, a protest at this place, Sanyang. A police station was burned down. What do you think actually emboldened the people, you know, to burn a police station? You understand? What do you think actually resulted to that? What do you think? So many factors result to that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it did not just happen out of the blue.
Seriously.
Definitely. You know, things start from one thing and lead to another. It's not, you just mentioned Sanyang, but we have had several other demonstrations that have led to violence. Demonstrations are fine. I mean, it's a way of people showing that they are dissatisfied with something or someone or something. So in order to let the authorities understand, it's okay to come out and then express your feelings. Now, but when demonstrations move from just peaceful demonstrations and move into violence, that is a problem. Now, what could have angered people so much so that they have to go into destruction? I mean, you look at who are these people who are demonstrating? Why would they want to demonstrate? You know, we have a lot of questions to ask.
Yeah, serious.
What prompted the demonstrations? Who has been involved in the demonstrations? What must have motivated them? You mentioned Sanyang. Okay, the case in point is about an alleged Senegalese, a Senegalese who went into somebody's compound, probably to steal, and got violent and ended up killing someone and then wounding other people. Out of anger, the youths and people in Sanyang came out attacking a lot of places within Sanyang, on the coast and on the beach, causing a lot of destruction that, you know, is probably measured in the millions. Why would they want to do that? It's not the first time that somebody must have killed someone, but I mean, why are we having instances that Senegalese are only being attacked? It was the Senegalese that were targeted. Where is it that the Chinese fish meal factory was targeted? What is causing all of this? We have to go back to the drawing board.
Seriously,
look at all these causations and then
it is scary. It is scary. You know, as you know, people will tell you that Gambia man fit no long. But you know, now when you look at things, you know, molbe janila, molbe mol fala, molbe mol sunyala, tilibilo from, you know, people will tell you manhani kata. You know, yesterday, you know, it was very funny to me. You know, one of our UTG groups, you know, somebody was saying, hey, please, if you are going to the UTG, how do you call it again? This pageant night, you know, if you are going, you have to actually go with a taxi driver, you know, and also do not go individually, but go in groups. When I analyzed that, I told myself, oh God, it's like, you know, in our own country now, we're even scared to go out. This is so threatening.
Tonya kese balen kanunia korasi science silo be mo jama ko na katum ye experience and be min moy kan.
Seriously.
Ye funti tela itarele ikatare la korda ko no fan. Ye ne taraje ye batandi ye force to sunya ye barama kan ni man loki ye fa.
Seriously.
Ye funti iko ikata hajol la bedo kan problem moy ne. So aketal ko abesia kan an nyanta kum fa silo nyina la kanne.
Exactly.
Nyim programme mento akumayata bakel.
Seriously, yeah.
Okay. Bare tumando fanang minul nyanta la moyla la bakel. Imantana ke la moyala.
Seriously, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bare wo martin nante diamo datila nante diamo kela. Min kumayata wolem diamo te. As far as I am concerned, we are always going to have conflict. We are always going to have problems.
Exactly.
But then we must never resort to violence to addressing them.
Seriously.
What we must always do is to seek dialogue. Okay, and we also have laws as to when you have problems, how to redress them. So I mean, it's a big box.
It's a big box. Komi nata jibe akamin for nyindiko. Fitno ni ko fitno modala ya makato bayni fitno it becomes a problem. Mansakunda ibentolle police all ibentolle do kola ni ku keta mi alon ko ame nyabo imal la fala. If you cannot talk to the police, talk to your representatives, parliamentarians. Mini alon ko we always have them here. Ni ka sija nga kacha but ikaminta ni wolon sometimes mol fo bugeto la problem mol foitolier. But even though it all parliamentarians supposed to go to those people, but if you have issues in your communities, communicate to them. So we have to address our issues, through those means. But when come the fitno tala police station or janitor, mol barmata, mol fata, saying ajibe mimekeri, youths all arrest kan. How many potential youths are arrested? Whenever I hear that a youth is arrested, I feel sad. But over 10 to 20 youths are arrested, and all these youths are going to be arraigned before a magistrate. And then when they are arraigned, it's not easy. They have to pay something, or even go to prison. When we need our youths to come and contribute to the development of this country. And these youths are going to prison for the sake of what? Violence against violence.
Understand, what is obvious is that we have laws through which we are governed.
Seriously.
And if the laws are violated, whoever the violator is supposed to pay for it.
Seriously, yeah. I actually do not actually...
the thing is this. What do we do to minimize the violation of our laws, especially within the context that we are talking about? Young people going out, breaking into people's homes to steal. What is forcing them into that?
That actually, as you said here, that requires, going back to the drawing board. We all actually understand. In fact, looking at this issue very well, you understand that, something must either push or pull people into something, you understand? Yeah. So what is urging the young people to go and actually loot and steal, understand? When you look at me, I'm a young person, I actually, do not go and steal because I'm engaged into something. When sustenance is available, understand, to the young people, I don't think they will go and steal, you understand? And also you said something very interesting and important, national dialogue. It's high time in our various compounds, we discuss with our youths, fitno, among that here, understand? Let elders actually continue playing their role they used to play. In our Gambian society, traditionally, hey, fitno, bukadoko wulu akakoto dabale wulu. So, it's high time the elders also to continue preaching this. That is why, in fact, I will be having some prominent elders here to come, we discuss. Because it's important, fitno nata, Momalong akaname wulu sama. Akotoma akaoda male wulu. And who is going to be the next victim?
Indeed.
It's sad. So, and as I told you also, a lot of murders, understand, rapes, stealings, understand. And in fact, I think these days the police is doing well, understand. These days when I see some of the materials that are recovered, I feel like, wow, do we have this kind of, weapons in this country?
Not to cut you short.
Okay.
For me, I think the police are doing really great.
Yeah.
I think they are doing everything possible to make sure that they stem the rise of crime. But let me take you back a bit, beyond, some maybe 9-10 years ago.
Okay.
Crime will always exist.
Yeah.
Okay. There used to be Operation Bulldozer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There used to be operation. There has always been some kind of operation in which joint security would come together and start combing our communities and then weeding out criminals. Okay. Even anti-crime, you could say, started like that. Okay. And they have been doing impressively in arresting criminals, would-be criminals, and then arraigning them before court. Those who are found guilty are taken to mile 2.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's the same thing all over. How comes that we started doing this some 9-10 years ago and it has not really helped in stemming the rise in crime? As a matter of fact, from the way we are seeing things, it's rising.
Seriously.
So let's look at the root causes.
Yeah.
Unemployment for Gambian youths is at about 40%. That is quite alarming.
Seriously.
Okay. Unemployment is about at 40%, and the majority of them are youths. Now, when you look at the education system of the Gambia, okay, when Gambian students graduate, the opportunities are not many for you.
Seriously.
In fact, it seems our education system does not prepare you well enough for the world outside the walls of the classrooms. So you become quite challenged.
Seriously.
There is a surge of rural-urban migration, especially among the youth folk. When you go to our rural areas, in the villages, you find that they are really empty. So there is a lot of people who have converged here, because this is where we all believe development is, and we are all trying to make a living here. So our survival is here.
Seriously.
So that is a problem. Economically, it's a huge challenge, and people need to survive. If they are not able to survive through their strength, I mean, through maybe using their brains, they are going to resort to violence, as we are saying.
Seriously.
So to address these problems that we are having, we may arrest and arrest and arrest, but unless the reasons for which that are there, force there, are addressed, we will continue arresting, and we are not going to continue having peace.
Seriously, seriously. I think it's high time we look at this. In fact, when I told somebody that, this is the soul that I'm anchoring, he told me, go and sit down, don't bother yourself. How can you preach for peace, when people do not have peace in them? I told him, what do you mean by that? He said, people need basic needs. And when you come to, human security, you understand, there cannot be any security, you understand, when people themselves are not secure. Security starts from personal, you understand, where you get your basic needs, you understand. So when those things are lacking, it becomes a problem. And for you, you do not mind to do anything. So I think it's high time, for the government and all stakeholders, both public and private, we know that if we want to reduce these, crime rates and all kind of destructions, it's high time we create opportunities for young people. Because day before yesterday, I was going out with my colleague, and I saw some boys sitting at the gate. I told him, boy, have you observed one thing? We are going because we actually are attached to somewhere else. But don't you think if these youths also have a place like that we have, do you think they will be sitting here? He told me, actually, no. Then we all kept quiet, we go. I think it's high time, opportunities to be created for the youths if we want to minimize and reduce this violence. Because if not, these things will be increasing and increasing and increasing. And it's sad, these things are coming every day.
Alassane, if you tell some people that their opportunities are not being created for you, they would deny flatly and tell you no. They are going to identify a whole lot of things, take a fee, IOM, and a whole lot of things they are going to count that they feel are opportunities that youths must exploit. My argument, however, is this. If I start school from primary one, and then I get given the impression that, even from home, that you need to grow up to be a doctor. You need to grow up to be some medical personnel or some fancy profession. It is always a white-collar job that they tell you should become. And all of a sudden, the reality, kicks in, because you have finished, you can't get those. So, turn it all over again. You are not really prepared for these other options that are there.
Seriously.
So, I think there is need. Since we are talking about dialogue, there is need for all of us to sit down and say, okay, how are we preparing our youths to take up responsibility? Let's start from the onset. What kind of mentality are we putting in them? Okay, we have to be able to let them understand that masonry is not a problem. Being a plumber is not a problem. Being a welder man is not a problem. So once this is inculcated in them, they understand it from as they are growing up. So it opens them down. We have the Gambia it's water all over. But you know that traditionally, if you do not come from a fishing family, you don't become a fisherman. Very right. How do you make fishing open to everyone? I come from an area where you go into the river, they tell you bulsango, and I have grown being afraid of the river, of the sea. Now that I've grown up, I want a job. There is no way you can point to me at the sea to me and expect me to go, because I am not created that way. Seriously. How do we make all of these things available and then, make it accessible for the youth? Seriously. All of that should be part of the
Seriously. Diet. And what you said also, some point in time, in fact, still now, I normally, assist some youths, because you cannot preach for peace when, you cannot tell somebody peace when the person is not having peace within himself. That is, basic needs in life. So try to facilitate some jobs, this techie fee and whatsoever. But I tend to find out sometimes it's very difficult, to access their loans or grants. I think it's high time they also look at this, because some of these youths you want to help. You yourself, that these youths do not actually, acquire university certificates or whatsoever. Some of them stop at grade 9, some of them grade 12. Reasons best known to them, and sometimes family problems. So you make it so simple and easy. You guide and code them. But they will go, they will tell you, you have to fill a form which has to be like 10 pages, and as a result, you have to create an account, you have to register your business. So it becomes so important.
That is fair. It's for auditing and accountability.
That is fair. That is fair. But sometimes most of the youths that I actually assist, some will tell me it's very difficult to get this. You understand? I know. Basically, the funds are given on the basis of they have to be accounted. You understand? But sometimes you also have to understand. If you are giving it to somebody at the university, that's fine. You understand? But if you are giving it to a youth who actually do not go to school, or who does not go to school, actually, I think you have to be very fair enough and to balance it, in the manner and the approach you use. But I see that, the approach they use, even for, those that actually have gone to tertiary institutions, are the same one they use on those actually who do not.
Yeah, I would understand why they would have all of those measures put in place, because these are funds that are not supposed to be wasted.
Seriously.
These are funds that are supposed to be used, help anyone who is benefiting from them grow, and through that also allow others to be able to accept the funds and then also grow. The issue is
okay, Mr. Kuja, I'm coming to the next question. Is that as you have been to Darfur and other places on peacekeeping missions, share your experience on what you have seen which should urge Gambians to be peaceful and to be non-violent.
I went to Darfur in 2015, and since the violent conflict started in Darfur, we have heard about the killings, the mass killings, and the number of thousands of people who have died and displaced, both internally and also fled as refugees. We also heard about the humanitarian crisis, and when I got the opportunity to go on peacekeeping, I went with the impression that, okay, finally, I am going to give peace to the people of Darfur.
Seriously.
And when I got there and went into the whole thing, I realized that peace is not something that you just give on a silver platter. I think peace is so valuable that the best way you can have it is to make sure that you never lose it.
Seriously, yeah.
Is to make sure that you never lose it. Because once violence comes in knocking and then you let it in, getting rid of it could take you even a century.
Seriously.
Okay. So what I have learned from my experience in Darfur is that never resort to violence to solve your problems.
Seriously.
The people of Darfur got up and they wanted to fight. Okay, because they wanted some form of independence. They wanted to be free. More than 30 years on, they are still not really free.
Seriously.
So you will realize that the lives have been that have been lost, the resources that have been lost, all that all that has been involved has not actually brought about what they initially came out to fight for.
Seriously.
And it's not only Darfur. So then that motivated me to study and understand peace more.
Seriously.
Because I was like, conflict, yes, it's going to exist. But then how do we make sure that conflict does not resort to violence?
Seriously.
Yes. So for me, Gambia has a very beautiful thing, which is peace.
Seriously. And
we have to do everything possible to make sure that it is maintained.
One of the panelists,
although I must add, it seems we are losing it. I mean, if we have had it cut in our fingers, it's like we are gradually opening our fingers.
Seriously.
And these things that you mentioned earlier, like number of demonstrations, violent robbery, all of these as little conflict indicators that, if not held in check, would make us open up our arms and probably open up to violence. We do not. So we have to keep our fingers crossed.
Seriously. In fact, one of my guests last time, Honorable, he said, in fact, Gambia, we have a natural resource, and that is the peace. And that is very true. That is indeed true. And Mr. Kujabi, as you said, is very sympathetic. Darfur, they were actually not satisfied with the system, and they thought that violence could have been used as the best alternative to settle their issues. But Darfur become a sympathetic nation in the world. No one wants to go to Darfur. Even children who are, 1 or 2 years, if you ask them, do you want to go to Darfur, they will tell you, in fact, where is that country?
Except peacekeepers for the money.
Well, anyway, Mr. Kujabi, thinking about, people who lost their lives, thinking about people who have been separated with their families, thinking about the people who have been looted, thinking about, the destructions, it is so sad, thinking about the trauma. Even if you are interacting with somebody from Darfur, he or she feel nervous to tell you, I'm from Darfur. Understand? And you said something very interesting that, if the Gambia were having a peace like this, it's like we are opening up our eyes. Understand? In 2016 was a glimpse here. You understand? Whereas, some people were running up and down, and some have the experience of becoming temporary or refugees. And they have seen that. Leaving your house or your home to become an internally displaced is not easy, talk less of becoming a refugee.
Yeah.
And as you look at those refugees in Sudan or Darfur, how do you feel when you look at them?
The internally displaced people in Darfur became so disoriented. I mean, they lost hope. Okay. I remember we used to go out on patrols and we tried to meet them and talk to them. And you would be surprised that a lot of times you go to and try to meet them, they walk away from you because they feel you have nothing to offer them. Okay. They felt that the UN personnel had been in Darfur for so many years, several decades, and have not been able to bring about the peace that they wanted. Some of them have been internally displaced for more than 10, 20 years. The UN has been there, but has not been able to take them back to their homes.
Look at that.
That is how bad war is.
Seriously.
That is how bad violent conflict is. And that is why we must never have that in the Gambia. Seriously. We talk about Cairo. Our first president had a Cairo by the name to him. We are not to be perceivedly known to be peace-loving people. Let us not lose that. Seriously. And I think what is important here is that, let me mention this. What kind of message are we letting circulate amongst us now? From the churches to the mosques, on social media, in our banter bars. What is the discussion like in the Gambia today?
Seriously.
People don't talk about peace.
Seriously.
People talk about problems. People talk about economic problems. People talk about political problems. People talk about disappointment. I mean, the air of hope, the air of happiness is dissipating, and we have to do everything possible to bring it back. And our religious leaders have a huge role to doing that.
Seriously.
Yes. Yeah. Our politicians have the biggest role to doing that. The security, and even our mothers and our fathers, everybody needs to protect this thing that we all own.
Seriously, because when you look at look at Sudan, you understand, it's only in a peaceful environment you recognize an elder. You give him his or her status. Certainly. It's only, during peace that you recognize a woman as a mother. You understand? It's only, during peace that, you see somebody, you feel, like, this one is a brother, let me extend gesture of, kindness to him. But when violence erupts, mother becomes enemy, father becomes enemy, and sometimes women suffer and becomes, traumatized. Yeah. You see people, raping, people who actually can be mothers or grandmothers to them. Sometimes when I listen to the radio and television, hearing some of the women, explaining their ordeals, how they were, raped by young men. I feel sad.
Violence removes the humans in people and turns them into beasts. I mean, people you would never have thought
seriously
could commit atrocities, would commit, violence that you would never imagine humans are capable of.
Seriously.
And so I think there is a beast in every human being.
Seriously.
And we must make sure that that beast is never unleashed.
Seriously.
By making sure that peace is provided, not just peace of physical peace, absence of violence, but peace of the mind, peace of human security, peace of You've said something quite interesting. Once you lose peace, you lose your dignity. Then anybody can come and lord over you, become boss over you, and it rings a bell on. Right now, we have a peacekeeping force in the Gambia, the ECOMIC. And it has its toll on the Gambia security system in itself, which is currently undergoing security sector reform. So you will see even the morale of the Gambian security is affected, given the fact that we have other people who are coming to help do the work they are supposed to do. It can't be helped, but then that is what it is.
Seriously. And you are right with that, because so many people have their complaints on the economic or whatsoever. But having been that, before the 2016, we were able to handle issues, without the intervention of ECOMIC. It would have been so proper that we will not even have ECOMIC today. So since today we have them, some people feel somehow traumatized because of the presence of the ECOMIC, understand?
Yes, and I think largely they are doing good because they are helping maintain our peace. But their stay cannot be sustainable, and that's why we have to do everything possible for us to be able to say that yes, we are ready to maintain our own peace. We don't need your help.
In fact, in the UN system, mostly peacekeeping becomes effective when the people themselves are involved.
Yeah, the host nation we always have a say. Yeah, we are welcome. They are here because we want them to be
so
here.
That is very true. I think it's high time, the authorities actually to have the full confidence of our securities, you understand, and involve them, so much so that the ownership of the peacekeeping, instead of even bringing the police, we have our own nationals and indeed spearheading the peacekeeping mission. We have Gambians who are capable of doing. This is a country that actually has served in so many peacekeeping missions in the world.
You're talking about peacekeeping mission. I mean, are we in violence?
Not actually. It makes sense.
I understand.
Yeah. You understand that Gambians have championed in Liberia. The stories are hard. In Sudan, the stories are hard. We have our Gambian securities, who actually are well equipped. You can do this. You understand? I think it's high time, we look at those also. But Mr. Kujabi, as a citizen police officer once, what mechanism do you think Gambian police should do to employ order to handle riots without resorting to violence?
Riots without resorting to violence. I think what should happen is that not just Gambia police force, but Gambia, the Gambia government, should also make sure that nothing should make the people demonstrate to the point of The human survival instincts in me is what is going to kick in.
Seriously.
The police officer in me is going to be lost. Seriously. It is the David that wants to survive that is going to, and so I am going to have the weapons that I have that are supposed to help protect, the people. Because that is my vow, to protect the people is what I will use instead to protect myself.
Seriously.
By causing harm to the people I'm supposed to protect.
Seriously.
So that's why I said, given that circumstance, the best we can do is to make sure that our demonstrations, our dissatisfactions don't lead to demonstrations that go violent. We must help, and it is better to be preventive than react to situations.
Seriously, and you are right with that. But sometimes when I watch protests in other countries, in fact in Sudan, when the protest started, you understand, people actually were so much so dissatisfied with Bashir government, you understand. There is just certain faction of the security that actually were very repressive on them. But this faction of security came and said, look, you know what? We cannot tolerate, selling or, cracking down on our own people. They told them, foods are here, because those people were even protesting, saying that they were on hunger strike. And recently also in Senegal, you understand, when people were demonstrating, you understand, I saw like, soldiers coming, even the others were angry, you understand, but hey, calm down, We'll wait.
Gambia Police Force is capable of doing that too. You remember the 3 years Jotna, the first demonstration.
Okay.
It went on peacefully.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there was a common understanding. Okay, we want to demonstrate. Fine, it's your right. We will give you all the security that you need, and then so on and so forth to help you demonstrate. Then there was a second request for a demonstration. That was the one that turned violent. Now I don't need to go into the integrities as to why it turned violent.
When we address those issues, we will not resort to violence, you understand, and that is quite true. And with the 3 years, which actually we will have a look at, since this is a peace talk show, and we look at both this positive side and the negative side, that is peace and the side of violence, you understand, and the most recent violence from the past 5 years or even more, we will look at them, and analyze them and evaluate what are some of the things, that led to these things, It's going to be like this. How can these these demonstration of violence could have been avoided, you understand? And you said very well, we go back to the drawing board, check the issues that actually are urgent for this, we address them at the rudimentary stage, that is at the bottom stage, and then we will be free from this. Because if not that, we will continue to see these things and in different scales and intensities, and as a result we will be losing potential youths.
We don't want that,
and we do not want that, to be frank.
We do not want to lose a life.
We do not want to,
not especially through violence.
Seriously. And Mr. Kujabi, on the final note, if you are to advise Gambians on the subject matter, what will you tell them?
Simply, we are always going to have our conflicts within the home, within the community, within the society, as a country at large. We are going to have our differences, especially now that we are having a lot of differences.
Seriously.
Politically, really. there is no way that we can solve the problems that we have completely, immediately. But if there are clear indications that efforts are being made, if dialogue is maintained, if understanding is created, believe me, we will accommodate for all the problems that we have, and gradually we will begin to solve them one after the other. Even as we solve them, there will be more problems, but then we would have had an understanding that we have a system in which we are able to dialogue, bring our differences on the same table, and then address them and come to a mutual and agreeable understanding that helps maintain the peace that we have.
Seriously. Thank you very much, and that sounds very great. That is Mr. David Kujabi. Mr. Kujabi is assistant police officer, and he has vast experience in policing both internally and externally, and we had him very well. In fact, today I just invite him here to have one of these one-on-one with him so that he can share his wisdom and experience with us. We all heard what he said. No matter what, we will have our differences, but let's make sure our differences are addressed amicably. Let's make sure that our differences are addressed non-violently. Let's make sure that we always preach for peace. Let's ensure that the peace and tranquility is never taken for granted. Because if we do, you and I will live in a land where we say, had we known. On this note, I thank you all, your host, Alassana Jallo Justice. And thank you, Mr. Kujabi, for having the one-on-one.
Thank you for having me.